Welcome to Do-It-Yourself Home Improvement Plus Woodworking Shop. Today we're going to make a panel door for a cabinet in the woodworking shop. We've already made our cabinets that hang above the workbench. The doors are made out of #1 pine and the panel itself is made from 3/8 plywood. It's quite easy to make a flat panel door such as this here. Notice that these are not kitchen quality doors. These are strictly shop or garage quality doors. The doors consist basically of 3 parts. We have the rails that run horizontal and the stiles that run vertical and a panel that sits between them. The door itself is assembled using a tongue and groove method, whereby 3/8 grooves are cut into the stiles and the rails, and a tongue is also cut into the rail approximately a 1/2 inch where it fits together and glued in place. So let's get started. We're going to make our rails and stiles out of #1 pine. This is a 1x6, which means it's 3/4 in thickness and 5.5 inches wide. We're going to rip this exactly down the middle, which is going to be 2 5/8 of an inch. Now that we've ripped the #1 pine to 2 5/8 of an inch wide, we need to cut the length of it for our stiles and our rails. For these doors, our stiles are going to be 31.5 inch and our rails are going to be 20.5 inch. So let's get started cutting the length of the stiles and rails. To ensure that our stiles are exactly the same length, we use the first cut as a master to cut the second cut. The way we do that is line the butt ends up and run the saw blade right down the edge of the first cut. Now we have 2 stiles that are exactly the same length. We do the same thing on the rails. Because the tongue on the rail is going to be a 1/2 inch, we have to extend the length of the rail by 1 inch. There we have the rough cut of our stiles and our rails. The next step is we're going to cut the grooves in the stiles and the rails. We're going to use a dado saw blade to do that because it's probably quickest and easier. By the time we got a rotor set up to do the job, we could have the job already done using the dado blade. We want the groove to be perfectly down the middle, so we have to adjust our fence to get that. And we want the groove to be exactly a 1/2 inch deep. So we set the saw up using a square, so we've got a 1/2 inch depth. There's the groove. There's the groove in our rail. We continue the process till we get a groove and put both rails and both stiles. Now that we got the grooves all cut in both our rails and our stile, it's time to cut the tongue. We use the same blade setup, but we're going to adjust the height so the tongue is exactly centered in the groove. To do this, you use the square to set the height of the outside edge of the groove. We've already set this up, so all we have to do now is cut the tongue itself. So here's a tongue, exactly 1/2 inch. So we do a fit check to see how it fits together in the style. So there you have it. Once we put glue in there and bring this together with a clamp, it will provide a solid fit. Once we have the stiles and the rails cut, we do a fit check to ensure that it all will work together. Well, it does fit together. Let's see if it's square. We put a square in each of the corners to ensure that we have a perfectly 90-degree fit. Now we're ready to cut the panel and do a fit check on the panel before we glue it all together. Now that we've got a panel all cut, we'll do a fit check to make sure the whole door fits together the way we want. We first install the stiles, then we put the rails in. Once we get a panel in on the dry check, we'll check to ensure that it's still square, which is. Our next step is to glue and clamp it all together. When applying the glue, the only place we apply the glue is on the tongue ends of the stiles on both ends. There's no point in gluing the panel itself because we want the panel to float within the groove. When applying the glue, we want to make sure we get the tongue completely saturated with glue. We use a damp rag to wipe any excess glue off. Otherwise, we're going to have to sand it off when we get the panel completely assembled. Now we tighten up our clamps, just tight enough to close the gap between the two pieces of wood and wipe off the excess glue that squeezes out. In gluing, always remember that you're looking for glue to squeeze out between the joint. If it doesn't squeeze out, that's an indication that you do not have enough glue. Okay. There's a panel door all glued together. Check again to see if it's square. Which just indicates that it does. So we let that set up a couple of hours to dry. Then we sand it, do a little OG cutting on the outer edge on the router. That's all there is to it. We let this set up for approximately 2 hours to let the glue dry. Then we sand it of any burr marks or any excess glue. We run it through the outer and put a little OG bead on the edge to make it attractive. Now that the glue is dried, we can take off the clamps and see what we have. There we have it, our tongue and groove cabinet door. Our next step in the process is run it through the router and put a little OG bead around the edge to make it somewhat attractive. Then we do some light sanding and we paint it. There's that completed flat cabinet. It's very inexpensive to make, primarily because it's made out of pine and the panel is a piece of plywood. For more information on do-it-yourself home improvement projects, take a look at our website at Do It Yourself Home Improvement Plus.